Jesus says, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." John chapter 14, verse 15. But just what are Jesus' commandments? We don't have to guess. John, the author of the Gospel of John, explains it to us very clearly in his epistle. This is his commandment, that we believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another, just as he has commanded us. The one who keeps his commandments abides in him, and he in him. We know by this that he abides in us, by the Spirit whom he has given us. 1 John chapter 3, verses 23 and 24. Here, John has simplified the new covenant obedience. If it seems similar to Jesus' teaching on the law, "Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law?" from Matthew 22:36, that's because it is. John expects his audience to be familiar with Jesus' teaching. He answers the first question by affirming that believing, real, saving, action-producing faith in Jesus, is the first commandment, which is very interesting. Jesus answered the same question like this. And he said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself." On these two commandments depend the whole law and the prophets. Matthew 22, verses 37 through 40. This is a clear affirmation of Jesus' deity by John. He has equated believing and abiding in Jesus with loving the Lord your God with all your mind, soul, strength, and heart. This is a compelling statement. Don't let the simplicity of the language render it into a platitude. This is the deep simplicity of Jesus Christ. Obeying the gospel means that Jesus lives in us, and his life within us is what animates our every word and deed. This is no metaphor. It is the very acid test to see if your faith is authentic. Test yourselves to see if you are in the faith. Examine yourselves. Or do you not recognize this about yourselves? That Jesus Christ is in you. Unless, indeed, you fail the test. 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5. Does Jesus live and work through you? If you aren't sure, or if you do not understand this, ask God. Ask the Holy Spirit to reveal this truth to you. God's truth is hidden from those who will not turn to him for understanding. But to the humble and contrite, he is very kind. We must acknowledge that we are filthy sinners in desperate need of him, and that our righteousness, our own righteousness, is not sufficient to measure to the perfection of a perfect, just, and holy God. The self-righteous Pharisees among us will not admit their own sinfulness. They don't need Jesus. They don't need to have their eyes opened by Jesus because, after all, they already see just fine. They are happy to criticize and condemn sinners, but they have no heart to help them, no contrition to acknowledge their own sin. This makes them hypocrites. And indeed, hypocrites is precisely what Jesus calls them. They don't need God's help to be good. They think they deserve his goodwill. Jesus utterly condemns them. To come to him, we must confess our utter depravity, wickedness, and weakness. He did not come to save the righteous, but sinners. And Jesus said, "For judgment I came into this world, so that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind." Those of the Pharisees who were with him heard these things and said to him, "We are not blind too, are we?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no sin. But since you say we see, your sin remains." on.